Hi everyone, this is Susan Knowles with Stand for Truth Radio, and this is a segment I do called Knowles on the News. Now, we certainly do have a lot of news to talk about this week, and so let's go ahead and get started. Super Tuesday. Some would say that Donald Trump actually had a very good Super Tuesday. He won in almost every state, and I don't think that it was something that was a surprise to many. I think the only surprise would have been is if Donald Trump won in Texas, and he did not. Senator Cruz won in Texas, Oklahoma, and in Alaska. Now, the thing that surprised me a little bit was the fact that he won in Alaska. I don't know if that was people trying to give Sarah Palin kind of a message, sending one to her that they didn't appreciate the fact that she endorsed Donald Trump, but I have no idea. I mean, I really expected some of the southern states to vote for Ted Cruz, and that just wasn't the case. And Marco Rubio won one state. Go figure. I think that for a lot of people was a lot better than they thought that he would do. I really do think that it's time for Kasich and for Dr. Carson. You need to get out. It's over for you. It was so low for all of them, for the two of them, that there's no mathematical way that they could win. Why they're staying in, I don't know. I don't know if it's to split up votes. I don't know if it's to somehow make themselves look good to get a cabinet position and whoever gets the nomination. I really don't know at this point. All I know is that they need to go, and all I know is they probably won't. They will continue to stay in, especially Kasich, who wants to be in his hometown come, I think, the 15th of March. Why? But I also think for the people who are on Cruz's side and want Cruz as president, it is time for Cruz and Rubio to join forces. Now, that I really feel that that is the only way at this point that they're going to comfortably beat Donald Trump. It's kind of one of those things what I believe that Huckabee and McCain did with Romney to get Romney out. They got together and their votes together defeated Romney. And I think the same tactic really is going to have to be used this time, or it's going to be Trump all the way. And if you are a Trump supporter, that's exactly what you want. If you're not a Trump supporter, then you have to start looking at alternatives. And that's going to be really hard to do because we're talking about people with huge egos here. Rubio, he's not even slated to win his own hometown of Florida. That's not good. That should send a clear message to him. But again, when you have people who are in these positions of power, it's very much an ego-driven, narcissistic type of situation. And nobody wants to get out. Nobody wants to say, oh, I lost. I mean, there are a few, like Rand Paul, who got out, who's now saying, if you do certain things, maybe I'll come back in. I think it's too late for people to come back in. And we need to focus on who we have now. I really think right now it's boiling down to either Cruz or Trump, period. And right now, I think Trump is ahead of Cruz by about 20 points, I think, overall, in the electoral votes type situation. But, Rubio is just going to have to get to some point that where he says, I know I have to get out for the good of the American people. Now, will he do that? Does he care about the good of the American people? And if he doesn't, I mean, that tells you a lot about who he is and who he's always been. I do think that if it comes down to it and it gets to a certain point where Ted Cruz is losing, I really think that Ted will step aside. Ted's ego isn't as big as everybody else's. And I say that because I've seen him talk in different situations, and it's not been about him. It has been about the American people. And for those who aren't Cruz supporters, I think you have to look at that and say, he has done a lot of things for the American people. He has a proven track record of when he says he's going to do something, he actually does something. So if you're still hoping that, Cruz is your candidate, then it's time, contact Rubio's campaign and say, hey, you need to join forces at this point. Rubio, you need to step down so that we can have a two-person situation going on here and ultimately lead to the number one person getting that position. I do think that the American public would be open to having the first VP and presidential nominee being both Hispanics. I think that the country is ready for that, and that would be a plus in their situation. Again, whether they would do that or not, I kind of doubt it. But Rubio, he's got a lot to lose here. He can't run for his Senate seat again, and also run for the presidential nominee. So I think that he wants to stay in because he's got nothing else at this point. He can't go back and be a senator, which, yes, sorry, I think that's a good thing. Me personally, I've had enough of the Gang of Eight and hearing about the Gang of Eight. And on that note, I also hope that McCain gets voted out in Arizona. Oh, that would be so wonderful. And we need to move forward in this country with some really good people. We do need to shake things up. We really do. Congress, presidential office, it's not working. Too many people are, I believe, corrupt in what they do. And it's not about the American people anymore. It's about how much money can I make? What kind of deals can I make as a senator and the House of Representatives? What can I do? It's all about me, me, me. And when it stopped being about the American people, that's when it was over. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. You can't be a public servant and be about yourself. If you want to do that, go start your own business in the private sector, and it can be all about you. It won't work. Your business will fail eventually, but let it do that in the public sector. That's not what the public sector is all about. I know that's what it's becoming fast, and I think it's already there. But we can't keep having our country run like that. And I know that, with Ted Cruz winning Oklahoma, Texas, and Alaska, it's a good start. Whether it will carry him into the finish line, again, it's going to take the cooperation of people like Rubio to step out. Now, here's the other thing. Rubio may say, you know what, I'll bow out, but I want to be VP for Donald Trump. And honestly, I could see him doing something like that. Because even though he and Trump have gone back and forth about Trump's small hands and Rubio's, whatever it is with Rubio, I don't even remember, being a liar or a myriad of other things, I could see Rubio saying, I want to be your VP and I'll gladly step aside, and hoping that, Trump would have 4 years or 8 years. And then after that length of time, people will have forgotten about the Gang of Eight, and he would be elected president. Now, who knows? Trump might like that. And then again, Trump might say, you know what? You're a putz. I don't want you as my VP. Thanks, but no thanks. Adios. Just keep going. It would be, I think, in some ways. Now, I know Trump has the, Hispanic vote in some regards, and he says that he has. And people are claiming, no, he doesn't. He really doesn't have the Hispanic vote. Well, perhaps bringing Rubio on as VP would be the ticket that Trump needs to bring in that Hispanic vote. On the other hand, people have said, and myself included, I thought a long time ago that maybe Cruz would be the VP under Trump, but I don't think there's any possibility. They're too far apart in what they believe. Now, other people have told me that behind the scenes, that these people are getting along really well. that all of this is for show, that Trump calling Cruz names and talking about him and vice versa is all just a show, and that they really aren't that far apart, and there's still a possibility of that happening, of Cruz saying, okay, I'll be your VP. Why not? This election cycle has been the craziest election cycle ever. So nothing would surprise me anymore. You could tell me that, Trump would pick Hillary Clinton as the VP, and I believe you at this point. Or poor Bernie, who's, here's the thing. I don't understand this. Because of the way Hillary is set up with the votes that she has, even if she loses, she gets the votes. So I don't know, Bernie, what are you doing? Maybe Bernie's going to want to be her VP. Everybody needs a Joe Biden, right? So maybe Hillary's Joe Biden is Bernie Sanders. I don't know. It will be hard to see who Hillary Clinton is going to pick as her VP. Could she possibly pick Bill Clinton? It's got to be somebody who she can control because her ego, speaking of egotistical, narcissistic, whatever term you want to use, her ego is way up there. Who is she going to pick that is sort of meaningless in terms of politics, that won't get in her way, that won't steal the limelight? Don't know who that would be. I don't think it would be Elizabeth Warren, even though Elizabeth Warren supporters, I'm sure, would be absolutely head over heels with that idea. You're talking about two strong women that would definitely butt heads and are not going to be able to work together. Now, it could be that she will pick a Muslim Brotherhood VP, because it seems that's kind of her MO these days, to pick somebody like that for different cabinet positions, or to work for her in different areas. Again, at this point, I really don't care. I'm obviously not going to be voting for Hillary or Bernie Sanders, but I always think those type of things are interesting to think about and to see what people may do. It's still, to me, I'm wondering who Donald Trump would pick as VP. I really don't know. There have been some speculation about who he might pick, but really no names have surfaced. And as far as Cruz is concerned, he really hasn't spoken about anybody that he would pick for VP. But I do think it's time for him to speak up, start talking about it, start bantering, some names back and forth, just so we get an idea of who he's for. And again, if I were you and you were very serious in your support for Cruz, and I know the people with the hashtag Never Trump are very serious in their support for Cruz, you need to start calling Rubio's office, Rubio's campaign, and saying, hey, it's time. You need to bow out. You need to let your votes go to Cruz, and let's make this a two-person race and see where it goes. Who the best person, let the best person win. I know people are still concerned that if Trump does get the nomination, that he can't beat Hillary Clinton. Now, I don't know if that's true or if that's just something that people want to throw out there. There's been so much information that is kind of thrown out there that doesn't necessarily have any validity to it, but it's something that people say because it throws you off for the moment. It throws you off of Trump, or it throws you off of Cruz, whatever. There's so many lies going around for either candidate. It's hard to keep up anymore. It's kind of one of those things where I think the truth lies somewhere in there, but I don't know exactly where. And we really do need to get down to the truth. I mean, come on, let's just get to the truth. And whoever wins, but it's got to be based on truth. It can't be based on lies. We can't keep going this way. I say that knowing at the same time most likely it's going to keep going that way. It always does. The lies always keep going. The mudslinging just keeps going. It's the thing that everybody hates about politics and politicians, because usually if they're speaking, they're probably lying. I think that's probably the general rule that we've all gotten used to, and it's pathetic. And it really does just need to stop. Now, in other news, over the weekend, it came out that Donald Trump wouldn't disavow David Duke, who is the KKK, or used to be the KKK leader. And he simply, once he just said, well, I don't know who he is. And then he said, well, I couldn't hear, I didn't know. And there have been videos that have played that from years ago, he did know who David Duke was. So I think it's safe to say that he does know, and he did come out and he also disavowed David Duke. Well, it seems that now there's another controversy brewing, and we'll see how far this goes. I think it's another one of those things of, let's just sort of, get the attention off of what's really important and have people look over here when they need to be looking over there. It's that type of thing. Anyway, it's come out that James Edward, a notorious white supremacist and radio talk show host, is promoting a recent interview that he did with Donald Trump's son. So here we go. And he talked to the eldest son, and on his pro-white radio show called The Political Cesspool. Previous guests on the show have included neo-Nazis, Holocaust deniers, and Ku Klux Klan leaders. So there was a 20-minute interview, and this radio talk show host, who is supposedly a white supremacist, boasted about his access inside a Trump rally in Memphis, Tennessee. So now it's basically the article is trying to make it look like, here we go, now it's not only Trump, but Trump's son is talking to the KKK, and that they're pro-white supremacists, and that these white supremacists are even inside the Trump rallies. And this guy, James Edwards, the talk show host, says, we're watching history in the making, and it was part of his 3-hour broadcast from the press area of the Memphis Trump rally. Listen, anybody can go to these Trump rallies. I mean, as somebody, you go in, you get credentials and say, I'm with media, and I wanna be here. What are they going to do? Are they going to start racial profiling people, or start looking at everybody and saying, well, you're in, you're not? I'm sure that if you look around and see who was there, you're going to find that there were other people there. Maybe people that you don't like, maybe people that you do. But again, where do you draw the line? And for me, I people ask me, well, gosh, are you saying this because you're pro-Trump? Are you pro-Cruz? Personally, I don't understand people at this point. It really, does it matter what my beliefs are, who my candidate is? I don't understand how that impacts necessarily what you do. I want to be here to tell you the truth as I see it. Whether I am pro-Trump, pro-Cruz, or pro-somebody else, it doesn't prevent me from giving you the facts, logically coming to conclusions, and moving forward. I don't base my decisions and what I tell you upon who I'm for or who I'm not for. I'm not going to come out here and tell you, oh, look at this white supremacist. He was at a Trump rally, without giving you the other side and saying to you, but anybody can go there and get press credentials and cover a rally. That's not unusual. And so this is what I do. The radio show is called Stand for Truth, okay? And I want to bring you the truth. I do think that there are others in this election cycle who are not giving you the truth. I really do. People are getting attacked left and right. I don't understand the attacks. To this day, I don't understand why people on Trump's team as support Trump and people on Cruz's team who support him, why do you need to fight each other? Why does this have to be a knockdown drag out? Why? I mean, if each of you are confident in your candidate and you know that you have the right candidate, why argue with anybody? What difference does it make? I mean, it's fine to give your point of view. I have absolutely no problems in that. We've always done that. People have always given their side and what they believe. So I have absolutely no problem with that. What the problem is when people start getting nasty over this election, calling people names, telling them how stupid they are for not voting for Cruz or not voting for Trump or whoever. It's ridiculous. It doesn't bring us together under one umbrella. We all are going to need each other in this election. I don't care who you're for at this point, but when it comes right down to it and there's a nominee, you're going to have to make a decision. And that decision is you either vote for who the nominee is. If you don't, you get Hillary. Most likely it's going to be Hillary who is the Democratic presidential nominee. If you decide, well, I can't vote for that person, I'm going to write someone in, you're going to elect Hillary. Or if you say, well, Trump doesn't even need the GOP. If he doesn't get the nomination, he'll just go independent. And so then you have the people who are, let's say, voting for Cruz at that point, and you have Donald Trump, who is an independent, you're going to elect Hillary. So I think we're coming down to a critical point here where people are going to have to come together. And I think fighting each other, insulting each other, is not the way to do it. It's not gonna elect your person. It's just not. And again, it's okay to have a debate. It's perfectly fine to have a debate. What isn't fine is tearing each other apart, getting further apart in trying to come back together and elect a person other than Hillary Clinton. I mean, that's the reality of it. That's the truth of it. And that's what I'm going to tell you. So whether I want Cruz or whether I want Trump, and I've always been honest with you, I really like Cruz because of the fact he's a constitutionalist. I really think that America has to stick with the Constitution. We cannot have people doing what they do right now under Obama. It's not going to work. So I do favor Cruz at this point. I've always said that. I've always been open with you about that. When it comes right down to it, who will I vote for if Cruz isn't nominated? That's going to have to be a decision I make then. It's too early for me to be so concrete, so with my heels dug in. And I know some people already are, and that's fine. There are some of us who aren't there yet. There are some people that are just adamant and with their heels dug in the other way. So let's try to get along. Let's try to keep an open mind on either side, and let's pull together under one umbrella to elect a person who is not Hillary Clinton. I don't want another 4 or 8 years or even 4 or 8 seconds under Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or anybody else on the left. I really don't. Yes, would I like somebody on the right who is going to be different? You betcha. So let's all get there together and see where we go from here. But if we're going to attack each other, we're never going to get there. We're never going to get there. And it's interesting. I wrote this article the other day on the Blaze, for the Blaze. It's under the contribution section. And it was an article just asking the question. Now that Jeff Sessions has thrown his endorsement behind Trump, is that going to make a difference for Ted Cruz? Is his campaign going to be over, or does it make any difference at all? Whatever the case may be. Trying to And of course, this was the other day. We've already had Super Tuesday, doesn't matter. But I tried to keep the article very neutral. It wasn't about Trump. It wasn't about Cruz per se. It was about what effect is this Sessions endorsement going to have on both of these candidates. And the reason it was sort of geared towards what is this going to do to Cruz is because, as you may remember, Cruz all along in his campaign is Jeff Sessions, we agree, da 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 da. And Sessions has always said, if it weren't for weren't for Cruz, the immigration bill that the Senate had, that basically granted amnesty, if it weren't for Cruz, that bill would have passed. Okay, so logically I'm saying, well, what difference is it going to make then for Cruz's campaign? I had people on Facebook mad at me because they said it was pro-Trump. And then I had other people on the other side mad at me because they said it was pro-Cruz. You can't win in this election cycle. I mean, it's out. I don't even understand it. I really don't understand. I understand people are angry. I got that. All right. I really got that. But as far as like, just, you can't even have a conversation with people anymore, because if you say the wrong word, people are, whew, they're gone already. And this one guy says to me, well, who are you for? And I want to know who you're for, because on your show, you're pro-life and anti-abortion. So I want to know. My thoughts are, well, first of all, this is an article written for the Blaze. It isn't about my radio talk show. And the fact that I am pro-life or pro-abortion, you have two candidates who are saying that they're pro-life and anti-abortion. So what difference does it make? And I even said to him, what difference does it make who I vote for? Why is it important to you to know that? I don't think that, for any talk show host, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, you may follow them and you may say, well, if that's who you're for, that's who I'm going out there for. See, I think people have a brain. Most people do. And I would rather they make up their own minds. I want them to listen to what I have to say. And I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to give it to you on both sides, both candidates. I'm going to tell you what I find as the truth, what I believe, what I don't believe, what I hear, in articles that I read or other things that I've heard. I'm going to tell you all of those things so that you can go out there and make up your own mind and not just follow what I do or what I say, but taking everything that I say, taking things that other people say, and then making up your own mind who you think in your mind is the best person to lead our country. Isn't that the way it's supposed to be? We don't want lemmings on either side. I think too far, our country's gone too far. We at one point we say, well, the government is telling us what to think, what to do. We have Common Core in our schools. They're telling our kids what to do. And I agree with all that. Okay, so let's get away from that. Let's everybody go out and make your case for your candidate. Listen to what other people have to say. Take all that information and then make a decision. Don't base it on anybody else. And for God's sakes, don't attack anybody else for what their beliefs are. They have a right to believe in a candidate whether you and I agree with them or not. That's what Americans do. That's what and who we have always been. And it should continue to be that way. Because if we're not doing that, then we've become those people that we said we didn't like. So, and don't always assume, and I've had people assume this, because I'm writing articles for the Blaze, they automatically assume that I am, that I believe everything that the Blaze believes. No, because then I would be a lemming, wouldn't I? I have my own thoughts. I'm an independent thinker. I can make my own decisions. And, the Blaze has a right not to publish, what I give them. They can say, you know what, we don't like what you're saying here. We're not going to publish it. I've never had that happen. They've published anything that I've said, whether I agree with them or not. So, I mean, really, if you're going to judge me by where my articles are posted, come on. Would you want me to do that with you? And judge you by, let's say, with the company you work at or whatever. It's ridiculous. Read what I have or don't read what I have. Listen to the show or don't listen to the show. Whatever. But let's stop judging each other so much. Let's look at the content. Let's look at what's important, and let's forget all these other things. I mean, seriously, because you're for somebody and I'm not, or vice versa. Why should that make us unable to talk to each other? I'm adamant about this because I've had so much of this that I can't take it some days. I don't even want to go on social media sometimes because I know when I open my mouth, this is what I'm going to get. I don't want to be silenced. That's what the left does. And if you're one of those that are silencing people because you happen to be for the other candidate, you're doing exactly what the left does. So stop it, okay? Stop it. I don't try to silence you. Don't try to silence somebody else. It's not American. It's not the America that you and I know. It's not the America that you and I want to get back to. So we have to do the things that we say that we believe in, or else it's just talk. It's what the progressives do. So lighten up on people, all of us. Let's lighten up. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Let them talk. They're going to do what they're going to do, and you're trying to convince them otherwise. Especially when you do it in a strong, aggressive way, isn't going to help anything. Okay, so this election will come and go. And we need to still be friends. And as I said, we really need to stick together because there's going to come a critical moment when we all need to be together in order to defeat Hillary. So let's work towards that. When you're talking to somebody, keep that goal in mind, okay? Just ask it. So, let's see who is in trouble now. Christie. As you may recall, he came out and endorsed Donald Trump. And I guess in Super Tuesday, I didn't see it because I had so much of politics. I turned it off after a while. I couldn't stand watching anything. I don't even know what I watched. But apparently Christie was behind Donald Trump with some intense eye motions and eye movements. I kind of saw a clip of that. I have no idea what he was doing. I don't know if he had remembered that, hey gosh, you know what? Did I leave the iron on or did I turn it off? Oh, and he was just like intense, looking back and forth. Maybe that was it. I have no idea. It was odd, but it was Christie. Anyway, I guess it made a lot of people angry in New Jersey. And I believe it's something like 6 newspapers have come out against Christie. And they're saying, we want you to just go away. We don't like the fact that you nominated or that you endorsed Donald Trump for the GOP presidential nomination. And we want you to just step down. And so the editorials demand that he steps down comes a day after New Hampshire's most influential newspaper said, boy, were we wrong for endorsing Christie in November ahead of the state's primary. People were angry. They're really angry. And they want Christie to go away. Now, it's interesting. He had an approval rating of 33%. Woo! And it dropped down to 27% after he endorsed Donald Trump. Not sure how much it really hurt him because he was already pretty bad off. But apparently he he hasn't been doing his job in New Jersey. They don't see him around the office all that much. He sounds a lot like Marco Rubio. And it's funny because wasn't he the one that was saying, Marco, you're never there, you don't vote. I can't remember one debate where he was kind of accusing him of that. And so here we have him just doing basically the same thing. And see, this is another reason that people don't like politicians. They point their fingers at one politician when they're sitting there doing the exact same thing. People are tired of that, and who wouldn't be? I want a politician that when they open their mouth, I can believe what they're saying. I want a presidential candidate, a nominee, whomever. When you open your mouth, I want to know that what you're telling me is the truth. And I don't know if we can be that trusting in anybody. You have to, again, do your own homework. And that goes for, whether you're for Cruz or Trump. You have to, whatever they're saying to you, you've got to go and check out yourself. You really do. You can't just say, oh, well, that sounds really good and all that without looking at it. I don't think you can believe anybody, whether it's Donald Trump, Cruz, Rubio, any of them, even Dr. Carson. I think, all of them in some way or another, they're doing things for themselves, to benefit themselves. And when you have that, you've got to know that the person is actually telling you the truth. And when it's for their own benefit, sometimes they don't. Whether that's human nature or, it's not a good part of the human nature. And so that's why you and I can't go, oh, well, I believe you 100% and I'm going to take your word for it. No, you can't do that. We can't afford to do that. How many times did we take the word of the GOP who said, oh, we're going to go in there, we're going to stop Obamacare, and we have Obamacare. And I don't know about you, but what I pay each month in insurance fees now, the bill, premiums is so much higher. It's like double. I used to have great insurance, and I don't know about you, maybe the same way. Great insurance, PPO, everything. I could choose my own doctor. I could anything I wanted to do. Oh, not anymore. Oh, no, no, no. The cost of the PPO for my husband and myself went up so high, we couldn't do it anymore. And it went up that way right after Obamacare. And I'm sure with everybody, it made a big difference in what you're paying. It's horrible. Do I want the next president to come in and day one take out Obamacare? Yes. Yes, I do. And I don't know who in America who is working and paying for your own insurance who would not agree with that. It's been catastrophic. And in California, they even get the extended version of it. The state can't afford to continue doing things like that. While the people in the government and the politicians are getting rich, and the Americans who are out there working and paying taxes are getting poorer by the day. What is it, that we're all going to go down with the ship? Or is the agenda, oh gosh, it's going to get so bad that all of us will say, you know what, let's just have the one-payer system, the government, and then everything will be okay and we'll all be at the same price and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's what they call socialism. And if you missed my show with guest William J. Murray, you need to go listen to that show. We talked about his new book, The Utopian Road to Hell. And I'll tell you what, in my opinion, America is past being on the road to utopian hell. I think the utopian road to hell has already come and gone, and we're there. We're at the end right now. We're no longer on the road. We've parked the car, we've gotten out, and we're in the house. And we keep going this way. You hear people say there's no turning back once you've gone over to social. There won't be. And our young people already think socialism is amazingly wonderful because they don't know the truth. They haven't, all they're hearing is the Bernie Sanders of the world, or people who talk about one form of socialism, and they don't tell you the devastation behind it. They don't tell you how bad it has been for the countries that have followed it. Socialism has never worked. Do you think the young people are told that? No. Go out and get the book, Utopian Road to Hell. Because I'll tell you what, I read that book cover to cover. It is an amazing resource guide. Everybody needs that book. And you need to have your son or your daughter read that book for a reality check before the election. And if they're young enough and they're not voting, have them read it now, because they're going to see the country going over into socialism if we get the wrong person in the White House. It's going to be a done deal. I've never seen this country in this shape ever. And I know you haven't either. And I can't imagine how much worse. And I think it could get a lot worse than it is right now. You know, with under Obama bringing in all the Syrian refugees he can find, and anybody else that happens to want to come in unvetted, come on in. We can't have this country where we're taking care of everyone. We're not even taking care of veterans. We're not even taking care of the people here who really need it. And then we're bringing people, more and more people in, so that the Democrats can be assured to vote for the next century. You know, come on. Ridiculous. We have to get this country turned around. But you have to tell people about socialism. You know, again, kids in the public school system are just taught how wonderful it is. And they're never going to learn what's in that book, Utopia Road to Hell. They're never going to learn that in school. They're going to be told just the opposite. Kids today do not remember Ronald Reagan. They don't understand. When you and I sit and say how great Ronald Reagan was, they don't have a clue as to what you were talking about. And they're not going to learn about Ronald Reagan in school. And if they even bring up the name Ronald Reagan, it won't be because of all the accomplishments he did. It will be any negative thing that they can find. That's exactly what will be brought up. So it's up to you to teach your own children about socialism, about why you think socialism is bad. You need to just show them that, because you're the parent, you're the teacher. You know, don't let the government continue to take that role away from you, which they have done for the past, since the early 1900s. We can't afford to keep going down this road. We really can't. I think sometimes, again, parents are so busy, and they think somewhere along the line kids are going to learn this themselves, or by osmosis, or somebody in the school is going to teach them. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. And if you don't want to homeschool your children, then there's going to be times that you have to take the time to give them a book and say, hey, this is your assignment from mom and dad, and get them to read those types of books to see that when they get something in school, that it's going to be progressive left ideology that you don't approve of and they shouldn't approve of. Without you, there's no hope. In other news, we now have the Pentagon, who wants you to try to hack their computers. I'm not kidding you. First we have Apple wanting or we have the FBI wanting Apple to create software for them so that they can get into the iPhone of the San Bernardino terrorists. Again, while I totally understand that, I also understand that that's proprietary information and it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment rights. And I know there are people on the other side going, yeah, but we really need that information, and this is only one time. The government only needs that one time. That's it. Just one time, and they'll do it again and again and again, just this one time. So now we have the Pentagon who says, come on, we want to see how good our stuff is. We want to know where we need improvements. So instead of, I think one thing that really worries me and really bothers me about the FBI wanting that with Apple, you're telling me that you don't have the technology, you can't create the technology. I thought all the best minds were with the FBI, the CIA. I thought you guys had all this under control. So now you're telling me, essentially, you don't have this under control. That if you have, let's say, another country, another criminal out there who can put together something, that you don't have the ability to take down that criminal, to find, the information yourself. That worries me. That worries me. How far have we slipped that we're not capable of doing those things anymore? Shouldn't we be 2-3 steps ahead of everybody, ahead of the criminals? Shouldn't we know exactly how to get into an iPhone and get the password? And again, my understanding is that the FBI kind of lost that password, or it changed or something like that. They had it at one time and then they lost it. But even if you don't, you need to figure out how to get into that iPhone yourself, because there are other people who have iPhones that you're going to want to get into in the future. And even if Apple decided that they were going to do this for you, those people that you're trying to get in their iPhones, maybe they're smarter than you and they can figure out how to get around you even with the new information. We are in trouble. We're in trouble. Not a good sign. It's also, in my mind, not a good sign that the Pentagon is saying, okay, all you hackers out there, come and get it. We want you to try to hack us. We want you to come and play around in our system. But listen, not all is lost. Don't worry. They are only using the hackers that they've vetted. Okay? And we all know how great that the vetting system is with the government. You remember that with the Syrian refugees, man. They vetted these people, and then they got here and they did things, or other people that have come here. We've already been told by the State Department our vetting system is no good. So now we're going to believe that the Pentagon is going to go out there and only get people that they know they can trust. Because you can always trust a hacker. We all know that. I don't know what's happening with our government. I really don't. Not good stuff. Not good stuff when you're doing that. Now here's what Ash Carter, the Defense Secretary, says. I am confident that this innovative initiative will strengthen our digital defenses and ultimately enhance our national security. So in other words, we can't do this ourselves. We can't be sure that we have the best hackers. We might have forgotten something. We need you to go out there and try to hack into the system. Is it just me, or am I right about this? I mean, does anybody else not find this kind of disturbing a little bit? I mean, really, we're now, the government is now depending upon other people to help them do their best work. And I think it's probably something that's always been the case, but we've always been told that government has it under control. And again, this is one of those things, this is why you need to do your research, because you can't believe everything that you hear. It's just simply not true. We don't have things under control in the government. It's probably never been the case. And you need to sort of be aware of what's going on. Is there anything that you can do about it? Probably not. I don't know, but you certainly need to be aware of what's going on so that you just don't, become a lemming like others who just follow along and believe everything that they're told. At least that's a start, right? Anyway, we'll leave that and we'll see how wonderful that program works out. So the Supreme Court now is going to hear the case from Texas in regards to abortion. And basically that it's going to consider a Texas law requiring that doctors have admitting privileges at local hospitals and that clinics upgrade their facilities to hospital-like standards. Now, you would think that that would be a requirement, but I can tell you, I've been in some clinics. When I was practicing law, I at one point was helping another attorney on a certain case, and we had to go to a clinic and take pictures, and I believe it was a domestic violence type situation. It's been so many years ago, I can't really remember. But I went into this clinic, and it was a women's clinic, and I'm guessing they probably may have done abortions there. I'll tell you, I was shocked. Okay, this was in California, and I looked down on the floor, and there's blood stains on the floor. The clinic did not look clean in other respects. And I'm thinking, you see patients here? Children, women, men. Whoa. I mean, in my mind, I wouldn't have had my dog there to see the veterinarian. And that's how bad it looked to me. And so in any clinic that you have, you want a sterile environment. And I think, when you're doing abortions or whatever the case may be, the clinic should have certain standards. I mean, you want people to go in there. I mean, you may not agree with why they're going in there. You may not agree with them getting abortions. But you want to know that their health is not compromised when they go in there, right? Whatever the case may be. And so you would think, sort of just asking for certain standards, admitting privileges and hospital-like standards, that wouldn't be a big deal. That people wouldn't say, "Oh no, you can't require that." But of course, there are people who are saying that the requirements in the law do not enhance abortion safety, but instead will make it harder for women to end a pregnancy by reducing their access to the clinics. Now, to me, that's such hypocrites, because if this were a racial issue, and people were doing this in let's say a black clinic didn't have these standards, but the white clinic did, you would have people screaming. You'd have Black Lives Matter standing outside, trying to get their way inside to stop everything and saying how bad this was. So don't sit here and tell me that this isn't an issue. It's not an issue, when you have an agenda. When you say, well, it doesn't do anything to protect women. Because what they're trying to do is they don't want this to go to the Supreme Court. They don't want it to be heard. And they want to say, you're just trying to keep women from having an abortion. Again, if this were a black-white issue, there wouldn't be an issue. They would say, of course you have to have hospital-like standards. Of course you have to have admitting practices at a hospital in case something goes wrong at the clinic. And unfortunately, you know what it boils down to? This is more of a black Hispanic issue. And you know why? Because that's who gets abortions more than anybody else. Look at the statistics. Don't take my word for it. And still, these people with a clear conscience can sit there and say, oh, you're just trying to prevent women from having abortions. No, well, maybe that's part of it. I can say for sure, that's what Texas is doing. But on the other hand, Do you want women to die when they're having abortions? Again, I don't know why you wouldn't require this for any clinic anywhere. It's going to be interesting, though, to see what happens now that Scalia has died, Justice Scalia. He was the conservative voice on the Supreme Court. And there are only 8 judges, and it raises a possibility that there could be a 4-4 split. And a possibility that would allow the Texas law to take effect, but not set a national precedent. So, we'll see what happens. If it can be done anywhere, it can be done in Texas. California, absolutely, they wouldn't go for it. I can tell you, California would do everything in the world to stop it. It probably never would have gone to the Supreme Court in the first place because, people in California are so mostly pro-abortion. And I'm not saying that the people are, but I am saying that the majority of the people who vote are, because this is turned into a rather Democrat state, a progressive left Democrat leaning state. So we'll see what happens. We'll follow this and see what happens. Now, it's interesting also that Harry Reid has come out and said, well, President Obama in about another week is going to give us a Supreme Court nominee name. Why Harry Reid has to come out and say that and not Obama, not really sure, other than the fact that they want to rub it in the faces of the Senate on the GOP side, who have sworn that they are not going to even hear the nominee or put it on the schedule or anything else. Again, I don't believe the GOP. I really don't. It wouldn't surprise me last minute. Okay, well, we've got to at least take it up. We've got to at least hear what they have to say. We have to at least, whatever. There has been some speculation that Obama might appoint or nominate a liberal GOP Supreme Court justice. Well, here's my question. Why would you even know that that's who they are? Because when you want a Supreme Court justice, supposedly you want somebody who's neutral, right? So how would you even know how they vote and all that, other than the fact, of course, that they're holding a position on the GOP side? But, of course, Obama's doing this because it'll be harder for the GOP to say, oh, we're not going to entertain this because it's one of us, right? It's a GOP person. Politics. And if this person, if the GOP once again doesn't do what they say they're going to do, and they have a track record of not doing what they say they're going to do, then it's possible that we might even have a left-leaning liberal Democrat justice appointment or nominee. Or again, Obama might try to find somebody who is very liberal, progressive GOP. Either way, we lose. Either way, the conservatives lose, and you lose big time because you're talking about a lifetime appointment. And yeah, there are others that are sitting on the court that, may not be there too much longer. They're getting up there in years. But even if it's a day, it would be devastating to conservatives everywhere for generations. So when it comes time, once again, we're going to have to all speak out and tell the GOP, this is not what we want you to do. Whether they will listen, they haven't before. They really haven't. So it's hard to say if they will this time. If it means more to them that they may lose an upcoming election, then they might go for it. Again, everything is so up in the air with this election, with everything that's going on. I don't think there's too much that you can depend on happening that you've seen happen in the past. I think we're on a new path, a whole new path that we've never been down before. We'll see where all of this goes. I want to thank you so much for being here today. I hope you like this video, and this way we can talk and see each other at the same time, or at least you can see me. So until next time, take care, be kind yourself, be kind to everybody else, and I'll see you again next week with all new news, and it will be new. Take care.